From a man getting struck by lightning 4 times to another man that survived 2 atomic bomb blasts, we take a look at the 5 unluckiest people on Earth. Number 5. Satomu Yamaguchi. What started off as a normal business trip to Hiroshima turned into a nightmare. On August 6th, as Somotu was walking towards the docks with his colleagues, he realized he forgot his hanko, which is a stamp that allowed him to travel. He walked back to his temporary workplace to grab it, when at 8:15, little boy was dropped over the Japanese city. Tsutomu distinctly remembers what happened that day, saying that he saw a great flash in the sky and that he was then blown over. The explosion ruptured his eardrums and left him with burns over the left side of his body. Injured, he returned for treatment in his hometown, Nagasaki. Although heavily bandaged, he went to work like the tough guy he was. He survived 1 nuclear blast. There wasn't anything else that the world could throw his way that would affect him. As he was telling his boss about what happened in Hiroshima, Fat Boy was dropped above Nagasaki. He was unhurt by the explosion, despite being 3 kilometers from ground zero. But he almost died because nobody was able to change his bandages, leaving him prone to infection. Number 4. Major Summerford. Major Summerford was struck by lightning in February of 1918 while fighting in the fields of Flanders. He was knocked off of his horse by the lightning, and he suffered so much nerve damage that he was paralyzed from the waist down. After the war, he settled down in Vancouver, Canada. He was sitting under a tree, minding his own business, doing some fishing, when another lightning bolt struck him, this time paralyzing the right side of his body. 2 years later, Major Summerford had almost completely recovered from both lightning strikes. In 1930, he was walking in a park, enjoying the scenery, when he was struck by lightning for a 3rd time. This time, it permanently paralyzed him. He died a few years after. 4 years after his death, another storm was brewing. While he lay below the surface of the earth, as if Mother Nature wanted to torment him one last time, lightning struck his tombstone. Number 3. Violet Jessup. In 1911, Violet Jessup had begun her exciting career as an ocean line stewardess. She was going to get to travel the world. How fantastic! Except that year, she was on board the RMS Olympic, a luxury ship and the largest civilian ship at the time. While she was on board, the RMS Olympic collided with the HMS Hawk, severely damaging both ships. 1 year later, on April 10, 1912, Violet boarded the RMS Titanic to, once more, begin her career as an ocean line stewardess. 4 days later, the boat hit an iceberg and began to sink. Violet was ordered to the deck of the boat, and because of her Argentinian ancestry, was ordered to show the non-English speakers how they should be behaving. She was put on a lifeboat, and a passenger who was unable to get on a lifeboat handed her a baby to look after. As if all of this wasn't bad enough, 4 years after the sinking of the Titanic, Violet was on the HMHS Britannic when it sank on November 21, 1916. The boat hit a sea mine and sank rapidly. Violet jumped off of her lifeboat to avoid being sucked into the Britannic's propellers, but she was sucked under despite her best efforts. She struck her head, surfaced, and was rescued by another lifeboat. Number 2. Jean Rogers. Her misfortune started in 1967 while on a cruise ship. Jean went onto the wet deck and began taking pictures. She slipped and fell off the cruise ship. When her friend saw what had happened, they tried to run and get help, but slipped and knocked themselves unconscious. An hour later, the captain was informed that a passenger had fallen overboard, and they turned around to find her. In 1971, she escaped death once more after she was struck by a bolt of lightning. Her pantyhose melted into her legs, and the nerve damage inflicted on her was so severe she could never wear shoes again. 2 years later, she was struck by lightning again. To make matters worse, at some point in her life, she was swimming at the YMCA in Hartford, Connecticut. She heard that there was a phone call for Rogers at the front desk, so she tried to leave the pool to answer the phone. While leaving the pool, she accidentally pants a man who was also trying to get out of the pool. That man was none other than Fred Rogers, host of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, who was getting out of the pool thinking the phone call was for him. Number 1. Henry Ziegland. Henry Ziegland dumped a woman who was so distraught by it that she took her own life. The girl's brother heard about his sister's death and went to Henry's house to kill him. The brother shot Henry. However, the bullet only grazed him and became wedged inside of a nearby tree. Henry, like the cunning man he was, pretended to be dead so that the ex-girlfriend's brother would leave. However, the brother was so distraught over what had just happened that he killed himself. Years later, Henry, still alive, decides that he needs to get rid of a tree on his property. Instead of chopping down the tree, he decides the best thing he can do is blow up the tree with a little bit of dynamite. It was supposed to be harmless. However, Henry forgot that the tree he tried to blow up was the tree that had a bullet lodged into it. Once Henry blew up the tree, the bullet was no longer lodged into the wood, flew out, and hit Henry, killing him almost instantly. Check out our other videos and remember to hit the subscribe button for more videos every week.